Can you imagine that a simple gesture from your pet could save your life? How would you react if, suddenly, your cat started behaving unusually, as if trying to tell you something? Many times we underestimate animal instinct, but what happened in this story will make you reconsider the connection between humans and their pets. It was a cold autumn afternoon in a quiet neighborhood. The sky was covered with gray clouds and a cold breeze blew through the streets. The Ramirez family, consisting of Carlos, Mariana, and their daughter Sofia, was enjoying a typical day at home. In a corner of the living room, their cat, a beautiful orange tabby named Tito, was sleeping peacefully, unaware of what was about to happen. Tito had been rescued from a shelter 2 years earlier. From the very first moment, he showed himself to be a curious, intelligent, and deeply affectionate cat. He was always near his family, watching them with his green eyes full of life. However, that afternoon, his behavior began to change in an unsettling way. Carlos was in the kitchen preparing coffee when he noticed Tito persistently prowling around the door, meowing in an odd way. Mariana, who was reading a book in the living room, also watched him with curiosity. "What's wrong, little one?" she asked, but the cat didn't stop meowing. As the minutes passed, Tito's behavior became more desperate. He jumped onto the couch where Sofia was sitting and began scratching her sweater insistently. The girl, surprised, tried to calm him down, but the cat kept acting strangely. It was then that Mariana noticed a faint smell in the air, something barely perceptible, but it made her frown. "Carlos, wait a moment," exclaimed, standing up. He walked towards the kitchen, following the scent trail. As soon as he crossed the door, he felt a pang of fear in his stomach. The smell of gas was stronger. At that moment, Carlos noticed it too. He rushed to check the stove and the pipes, and that's when he saw it. A small crack in the gas connection was releasing the dangerous fuel into the air. His heart raced. "Mariana, get Sofia out of here now," he shouted urgently. Without wasting a second, Mariana picked up her daughter and headed for the door. But Tito didn't stay behind. He ran alongside them as if making sure they were safe. When the whole family was outside, Carlos turned off the gas valve and called emergency services. With his heart pounding, he looked at Tito, who was now rubbing against Sofia's leg as if nothing had happened. But one thing was clear. Thanks to his behavior, his family was safe. Minutes later, the firefighters arrived. With specialized equipment, they inspected the house and confirmed that the leak could have caused an explosion if it hadn't been detected in time. The news left Carlos and Mariana stunned. A chill ran through their bodies as they imagined what could have happened. One of the firefighters, after checking the kitchen, looked at the family seriously. "You were lucky," he said. If the gas had accumulated a little more, a spark, even turning on a light, would have been enough for a tragedy. Mariana felt a lump in her throat and looked at Tito, who was now calmly licking his paw. Sofia hugged her cat tightly. "You're our hero, Tito," she murmured. And at that moment, everyone understood that without him, their story could have been very different. Carlos, unable to resist, crouched down to pet the feline's head, and Tito purred contentedly. The next day, Tito's story quickly spread through the neighborhood. A local newspaper learned of the event and sent a reporter to interview the family. Mariana, still moved, detailed how her cat had insisted on warning them of the danger. Sofia, proud, held Tito in her arms while the cameras captured her image. "I always knew Tito was special," she said with a smile. The journalist, amazed, took notes and assured them the story would appear in the weekend edition. The tale of the brave feline quickly went viral. Within a few days, several national media outlets began talking about Tito. TV programs and news portals published articles about the cat that saved his family from a tragedy. The Ramirez family's home became a point of interest in the community. Mariana and Carlos received calls from friends and family, all surprised by the news. Even an animal protection organization contacted them to honor Tito with a small tribute. The event took place at a nearby plaza where the local mayor presented the family with a symbolic recognition. While all of this was happening, Tito remained the same as always. He didn't understand the attention he was receiving, but he enjoyed the extra pampering and petting. For him, he had simply done what his heart told him to do: protect his family. The impact of Tito's heroic act didn't stop there. Days later, a national television network contacted the family to invite them to a morning show. Mariana and Carlos hesitated at first, but Sofia was excited by the idea of her cat being recognized across the country. On the day of the interview, the family traveled to the city. In the studio, Tito was calm in Sofia's lap, who was petting him while the hosts introduced them. "Today, we'll meet a very special hero," they announced, showing a video of the rescue and firefighters speaking about the severity of the gas leak. During the interview, Mariana recounted how Tito had saved their lives. Carlos added details about the gas connection and how, without the cat's warning, they wouldn't have even noticed the danger until it was too late. The audience clapped excitedly when Sofia, with a big smile, said, "Tito is my best friend. He always takes care of us." The program ended with a special segment where an animal rescue foundation presented Tito with an award, along with a generous donation to help other animals in need. The story of the heroic cat touched many people's hearts and raised awareness about the importance of adopting and caring for animals. After the interview, the family returned home, overwhelmed by the number of supportive messages they received on social media. Many people shared stories about their own pets and how animals have a special intuition to sense danger. Tito's story became an example of the bond between humans and their four-legged friends. A few days later, a local shelter organized an adoption event inspired by Tito. Dozens of families came to meet the animals in search of a home. Mariana and Sofia attended and moved, watched as several cats and dogs found new families. Tito, who was also present, walked gracefully among the attendees, enjoying the attention. Carlos, who had always been a little more reserved with animals, ended up being convinced that fate had brought them together with Tito for a reason. "Not only did he save our lives," he told a reporter covering the event, "but he also taught us how important it is to give these little heroes a chance." The Ramirez family continued with their everyday life, but with a new perspective on their bond with Tito. Now the cat slept every night in Sofia's bed, as if he understood how grateful they were to him. And every time he meowed insistently, Mariana and Carlos paid attention, because there was no doubt that Tito always had something important to say. The days went by, and Tito's story continued to be talked about. The family began receiving invitations from schools and community events to share their experience. Mariana, excited about the positive impact their story was having, accepted an invitation to speak at a primary school about the importance of animals in people's lives. On the day of the event, Sofia took Tito with her. The children were fascinated by the hero cat, gently petting him as they listened attentively to the story of how he saved his family. "Animals are our friends and can help us more than we think," explained Mariana, watching as the little one smiled and asked questions about Tito. A teacher from the school approached Mariana at the end of the talk. "It's a wonderful story. It would do us good to teach the children to be more aware of animals and their importance in our lives." Inspired by Tito, the school decided to start an educational program about pet care and responsible adoption. Meanwhile, at home, Tito remained the same curious cat as always. Although he now received more attention and affection, he seemed unfazed by his new fame. Sofia, however, began to notice something different about him. He spent more time observing the window and meowing insistently at certain times of the day. One day, while playing in the garden, Tito quickly ran toward a fence that led to the neighbor's house. Mariana, concerned, followed him. When she arrived, she discovered a small dog trapped between some fallen boards in the neighbor's yard. Without thinking twice, she helped free it and called the dog's owner, who was astonished and grateful. "How did your cat know it was there?" asked the woman. Mariana didn't have a clear answer, but she knew Tito had a special intuition for sensing danger. From that moment on, the neighbors also began to see him as a true protector of the neighborhood. Time passed, and although Tito's fame gradually settled, nothing in the Ramirez family was the same. Now, every morning, Carlos spent a few minutes playing with Tito before going to work, something he had never done before. Mariana, for her part, became more involved in animal rescue activities, convinced that all animals deserve a chance. Sophia, who had learned the true value of her pet, decided to write a story about Tito for her school assignment. Her teacher, moved by the story, shared it with the school principal, who proposed turning it into a small book for the school library. Soon, Tito's story was not only in the news, but also in classrooms. The Ramirez family never imagined that a rescued cat would change their lives in so many ways. Tito had not only saved them, but also showed them a new way of seeing the world. And while he remained the same mischievous cat, in his heart, he knew that his home was more united than ever because of him. As the weeks went by, Tito became a kind of symbol for the community. A group of volunteers from the shelter where he had been adopted organized a special event to promote pet adoption. They invited the Ramirez family as honored guests and asked Sophia to read her story at the event. When the day arrived, the little girl climbed onto the stage with Tito in her arms. Her voice trembled with emotion as she read her story, and at the end, she received a standing ovation. Several families felt inspired and decided to adopt a pet that very day, convinced that every animal could be a potential hero. Mariana and Carlos looked at their daughter with pride. Not only had they gained a new member in the family with Tito, but their story was also helping to change lives. The rescue organization presented Sophia and Tito with a special recognition, thanking them for their positive impact on the community. One night, while the family was resting at home, a strange sound woke Mariana. It was a faint tapping on the window. She got up cautiously and saw Tito sitting by the curtain, his gaze fixed on the street. Something in his behavior seemed unsettling, so she decided to take a look. When she peeked out, she saw a figure moving in the shadows. Her heart raced. She woke up Carlos, who also looked out the window and noticed someone trying to force open the garage door. Without wasting time, they called the police while Carlos turned on the outdoor lights. The intruder, startled, fled before any harm could be done. Minutes later, the patrol arrived and the officers praised the family for their quick reaction. "You have an incredible cat," one of the officers commented after hearing how Tito had alerted them to the danger. Once again, the feline had protected his family. After that incident, the family decided to install security cameras and reinforce the house's locks. But beyond the precautionary measures, one thing was certain. Tito had a special sense for detecting danger. There was no longer any doubt that he was not an ordinary cat. The story of the intruder spread among the neighbors, who now saw Tito not only as a hero, but also as a guardian of the neighborhood. Several people began leaving small tokens of appreciation at the Ramirez family's door: toys, cat food, and even a medal with his name engraved on it. Sophia was prouder than ever of her pet. "He's like a superhero," she told her friends at school. And in a way, everyone began to see him that way. Tito had proven, once again, that his love for his family went beyond what anyone could imagine. As the months went by, the Ramirez family became even more involved in activities to raise awareness about adoption and animal rescue. Mariana began collaborating with local shelters, helping at events and promoting responsible pet ownership. Carlos, who at first only saw Tito as the family cat, now considered him an indispensable member of their home. Sophia's story, which had been published in her school's library, reached the hands of a local writer who was so moved that he decided to adapt it into an illustrated book. The news thrilled the family, and when the book was finally published, it became a hit among the children in the community. Tito, unaware of all the fame, continued with his daily routine, sleeping, eating, playing, and occasionally surprising his family with his extraordinary intuition. But one thing was certain: no matter how many more adventures they lived together, he would always be the hero who taught them the true meaning of love and protection. Tito's impact on the community kept growing. A local television channel organized a special report about his story, highlighting how a small cat had saved his family and become a symbol of protection and love. The filming took place at the Ramirez home, where Tito, as curious as ever, inspected the cameras and microphones with his big green eyes. During the interview, Mariana shared her reflection on what had happened. "We never imagined that an animal could change our lives so much. He has taught us to be more aware, to value what we have, and to understand the importance of listening to our pets." Carlos, for his part, admitted that he hadn't been very close to animals before, but that Tito had completely changed his way of thinking. The report aired and was a success. They received messages from people who had adopted cats inspired by Tito's story. One woman wrote saying that she had been hesitating for years about adopting a stray cat that had been roaming around her house, but after watching the program, she decided to give it a home. "Maybe he's also a hero in the making," her message said. One afternoon, while playing in the garden, Sophia noticed that Tito was particularly restless. He was moving back and forth, sniffing the ground and meowing insistently. The girl, intrigued, called her parents. "I think Tito wants to show us something," she said confidently. Carlos and Mariana approached and saw that Tito was digging near an old tree. Upon closer inspection, Carlos noticed something strange: a small opening in the ground, as if there were a burrow. They decided to investigate and very carefully began to remove some of the soil. To their surprise, they found a litter of newborn kittens hidden among the roots of the tree. Mariana felt a lump in her throat. Someone had abandoned them there, possibly hoping they wouldn't survive. Thanks to Tito, the little ones had been discovered in time. Without thinking twice, the family gathered the kittens and took them inside the house. There were 4 of them, tiny and fragile, with their eyes still closed. Sophia watched them with tenderness as Tito settled nearby, as if wanting to make sure they were safe. Mariana contacted a veterinarian who explained to them how to care for the kittens. They would require special feeding and a lot of attention during the first few weeks. Carlos, who had never seen himself as a cat caregiver, surprised himself by buying bottles and preparing warm milk for the little ones. The rescue of the kittens became another story that moved the neighborhood. Some neighbors offered to help, donating blankets and food. The Ramirez family decided that once the kittens were ready, they would look for responsible homes for them. However, Sophia already had another idea in mind. The days passed, and the kittens grew strong. Each one had a distinct personality. One was adventurous, another was a sleepyhead, another playful, and the smallest one always followed Tito wherever he went. Sophia named him Leo, and, without saying it out loud, started planning how to convince her parents to keep him. Tito, for his part, took on a protective role. He would groom the little ones and watch over them while they slept. For the family, it was amazing to see how a cat that had once been rescued was now helping to save others of his own kind. One day, while Sophia played with the kittens, Mariana and Carlos realized something. Deep down, they all knew that one of them already had a home secured. "It looks like Tito has chosen his apprentice," Carlos joked, watching how Leo snuggled up next to his new big brother. When the time came to find homes for the other 3 kittens, the family organized a small event at their house. They invited friends and acquaintances interested in adoption, making sure that the new owners would be responsible and loving. One by one, the little ones found families who welcomed them with joy. Sophia, although sad to say goodbye to them, felt happy knowing they would be in good hands. And Leo, as if he understood that he was the chosen one to stay, proudly walked into Sophia's arms, rubbing his little head against her chest. "Welcome to the family, Leo," the girl whispered. Tito, watching the scene from a corner, purred contentedly. Life at home changed once again with Leo's arrival. Tito now had a playmate, someone to teach his tricks to and share his time with. The 2 cats put on a fun show around the house, racing through the hallways, climbing the furniture, and curling up together to sleep. Carlos, who never thought he'd end up with 2 cats at home, laughed at the energy of the felines. "It seems like Tito didn't just save our family, he also gave us a bigger one," he said, petting both of them. Mariana, for her part, felt inspired by everything they had experienced. She decided to write about her experience and send it to an animal welfare magazine. To her surprise, her article was published and received great feedback. Many people shared their own stories about how animals had changed their lives. Time passed, and the Ramirez family continued enjoying the company of their 2 cats. Tito, the hero of the house, now had an apprentice in Leo, and together they filled the home with love and adventures. Sophia grew up with the certainty that animals are not just pets, but life companions. She learned to appreciate their company, to understand their signals, and, above all, to return the unconditional love they offer. Tito's story went beyond his family and community. It became a symbol of what an animal's instinct and affection mean. And even though time passed, one thing would never change. Tito would always be the hero who taught them that sometimes life places special beings in our path who come to protect us, teach us, and, most of all, love us without conditions. And so we end another incredible story of bravery and heroism. On your channel, Hero Animals, we celebrate all those extraordinary beings who, regardless of their species, have shown remarkable courage. If this story has inspired you, don't forget to leave us a like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more amazing stories. See you on the next adventure, where heroism knows no limits.